technical difficulties. You know, this reminds me of a trial I did many years ago, and I was playing a video. We had a court going on. I had a video going on, and we broke for lunch. So everybody went to lunch. I came back, and I looked, and I couldn't play the video. And of course, the judge, being impatient as they are, started saying, Mr. Lopez, what the heck's going on? Finally, one of the jurors looked at me and said, I think you need to plug it in. So that just told me that I wasn't very technically. But first of all, on behalf of Peggy and I and the family, we want to thank all of you. It means so much to us. It's an amazing feeling when something happens to you and a community that you grew up in comes together. And so we really, you can't imagine the thanks we have and the admiration and the love that we have for all of you. I want to start this off with a little bit of what my father told me one day. He told me that getting old isn't bad. You get to live life. Sometimes new children, grandchildren come into play, replace your life. What's bad is that we start losing people that we love. And it starts to come one after another. It's maybe your parents, your siblings. But I have to say, losing a child is not something that I wish on anybody. It's not supposed to happen this way. But it does. You know, when I was asked and thought about doing this, I really had reservations because I just didn't think that I was going to be able to hold it together. But, you know, for 42 years, I got in front of juries and I talked to them. Boy, I loved it. I got in front of, you know, speaking engagements, loved it. But I have to say, this has been the hardest and the most difficult situation that I've ever been placed in. And for that, but I thought to myself, what would Jennifer do if the roles were reversed? If I had passed on and Jennifer was here, I guarantee you, those who knew Jennifer, went to school with Jennifer, did things. This thing was her life, microphone. She did. You gave her a microphone, she took off on it. So she would have fought us, she would have fought with everybody around to get up here and do it. So I felt obligated, I felt honored that I was placed in this situation. I also talk about, you know, again, my dad, I always bring him up because of what happened in his life. And now, he said that life is a blink of an eye. You can blink your eye and go back 30 years. You can remember what you did in high school. You can remember what you did in PE, what you did in that class, this class. Peter doesn't want me to tell you what we did, but anyway. But you can go back and blink, and that's a blink of an eye. Well, I have to be honest. For the last since we lost Jennifer, I've been blinking my eye a lot because I can remember when she was born. She was born November 30th, 1981. And I remember when she came into our lives, and we saw her and we said, we have a daughter, another daughter. We already had Catherine, but Jennifer came into our lives. It was something that we felt, you know, we had her for 44 years, 3 months, and 2 days. But in those 44 years, we went through our ups and downs, but we cannot replace the things that we cherished. You know, she went to school, Socorro. Socorro was her life. She never wanted to leave. I used to try to get her, Jennifer, go, see the world, go out to other places. She never wanted to leave Socorro. Socorro was her life. And with that, she went to Socorro. She came back. She went to Sandyville parochial school. Then she went to the junior high. Uh-oh, I just gave up my age. Middle school. And then she went to Socorro High School, and she graduated in the year 2000. She bragged about her being in high school. Amazing. She would talk about it. She remembered the things that she did with Tony Jean and Catherine and all of those people around her, Aya, all of them. She would bring them up and she would talk about them. She just cherished the fact that Socorro was her home and she was not going to leave it. Well, after high school, of course, she went on and she had two beautiful children, Calista and Fernando. And those two were her life. She loved them. She cared for them. You know, she fought with them. She knew Jennifer. You know, but she was there for them. But she also had a beautiful sister, Catherine. She had a beautiful nephew, Christian. They were more not nephew and aunt. They were more like brothers and sisters because they grew up so close with each other. And it's been hard. But also, she had a lot of cousins. Peggy has a big family. And honestly, they grew up together, played together, fought against each other, did everything. But they were close. And it's shown here of how many people, of relatives, have come to give her condolences and honor her. You know, Jennifer was extremely talented. It's amazing. I used to freak out with her because she started, you know, she loved to sing. You gave her a microphone and a karaoke machine, holy moly, you'd never hear the end of it. She loved it. And you know what? She had a pretty good voice. I used to sit there and say, hey, you're in tune. Your pitch is right. She had a pretty good situation. And I remember the day that she sang for her high school graduation. She had no fear. She got up there and sang. And she loved it. She looked forward to it. She practiced. She was, you know, I didn't know whether she thought she was Mariah Carey or what, but she did it. And you know what? She did a heck of a job. They had it outside at the stadium, at the football field. It was windy that day, it was a little thing, but she got up there and she did it. Also, she started working at the First Presbyterian Church. They had a piano. Guess what Jennifer would do when she was off? Play the piano. And she would tinker it and talk. You know, I was surprised. She got pretty good. For not ever having a lesson or anything else, she was pretty good at it. She started going, she would sing her songs, and she went on. The other thing she would do is she would paint. We bought her a canvas and a easel, got her some paints. First couple of paints, not so good. But as she continued to do it, she got better and better. She would take it to the house and say, look, Dad, look, Mom. And we'd look at it and go, okay, I can't figure out what you're painting. I guess it's called abstract. But she did it. And she loved it. She loved to paint. She loved to sing. She loved to play the piano. But if you knew Jennifer, she was extremely opinionated. You weren't going to hear from Jennifer whatever she said behind your back. She was going to tell you. I think she took it after her mom. But I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah. You know, she didn't hide anything, nothing. She said it like it is. You know, she'd tell you if she believed in something, she stood up and stood for her position. She never would back down to anybody, and she would argue with everybody. But the other thing that Jennifer had is she would speak up for people that wouldn't speak up for themselves. They would tell Jennifer, you know, I agree with you, I agree. So she'd get up and she'd talk on their behalf. She wasn't afraid. It leads me to one thing. I was at the office here in Socorro one day, and the principal of the high school called and said, Ron, you need to come to the office. And I said, what for? Well, Jennifer had a little trouble in class. And I said, oh my God, what now? Well, she started arguing with the history teacher because she didn't agree with how he felt about a particular position. And when she came to the office, she said, all I was doing, Dad, is taking my position. And I thought to myself, great, that's what it's all about. I know that's what I do for a living, but she stood her ground and she just, and of course the teacher was annoyed because she wasn't giving in. She was standing her ground. She said, no, I don't agree with you. I think this is the way it should happen and blah, blah, blah. Well, unfortunately, she went on with that class and it was a tough year for her. So, but as opinionated as she was, I think anybody who went with her and partied with her, and she was the laughter of the room. She took over, and she would just, she laughed. She loved Halloween. My God, we have Halloween pictures of her as Batgirl, big orange afro. She would dress up. She didn't have any problems going out and showing herself. She loved it. And man, talk about selfies. Ever since the phone was there, she had more selfies than you can imagine. She loved, and quite honestly, she was really photogenic. I mean, you look at me, oh my God, But her, she was just photogenic. But the thing that got me with Jennifer, she had a big heart. She really did. Some of the people that came to the house and, to give their condolences, I told them about a situation where there was I think some of you probably know this, there was a homeless individual that was parked out in front of the San Miguel Church in a tent, in a shopping cart. He's here. If he's here, fantastic. But anyway, and every night, true story, every night she gave that person a meal. Not only, she would go and I would tell her, Jennifer, you don't know this guy. You don't know what's going to happen. No, Fred is a nice guy. She got to know him. And she said, he's just down on his luck. He's a nice man. He's a nice guy that has, just down on his luck. But honestly, she fed him every night. And she would come to the house and says, do you have any take home? And I go, wait a minute, you're taking my leftovers. And of course she looked at me and said, Dad, you don't have to worry about that, So, okay, what the heck, Yeah, so that's Jennifer. But not only did she take it to them, she would invite people. Thanksgiving, you make a big meal. Thanksgiving, you have turkey, ham, you name it. She'd say, I want to take some take home. Take home 5 plates. What the heck? She was giving it out to people that she knew didn't have any food at home. She went out on her own. And she did this without recognition. She didn't want everybody to know that this is what she was doing. She just did it. And like I said, she had a big heart. So anyway, this was Jennifer. She had a big heart. Also, Jennifer, as I indicated, is opinionated. I have a bunch of books. The kids can tell you. You go into my house, 300 books of all kinds. History, the law books, you name it. Jennifer would get them and read them. She was an avid reader. She read everything. She'd read the chieftain from one to the last page, every article. She knew everything that was going on in Socorro. I'd have to ask her, what's up now, Jennifer? Who got married? What happened? She knew. But she'd get my books and she'd take them home. And I would look and say, well, that book got taken. But you know what she also took is my law books. Oh, yeah? So anyway, so she would take my law books. And then what would happen? She'd read them and come to the house and argue the law to me. She'd say, no, Dad, police can't do that. That's illegal. I said, Jennifer, there's some exceptions. And no, that's not what your book said. She would argue with me and argue with me. The other thing that she read that people didn't realize is that she read the Bible. If you ever saw her Bible, it was highlighted, tabbed. She had passages that she knew by heart. And I was amazed by her because, quite honestly, people, I really haven't read the Bible that much. I mean, I've looked at it, I've read it, I go to Mass, I do those things, but never to that point. But Jennifer read it from cover to cover. She highlighted it, she tabbed it, she knew it. But what Jennifer would also do is she'd come to the house and she would say, Dad, Mom, sit down at the table. Well, when your daughter comes to you and says, sit down at the table, it's usually not a good thing. We say, oh my God, what is about to happen? She would read us passages of the Bible. Sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes for a half an hour, sometimes for an hour. She would just read and read the passages from the Bible. She had found God. You know, this may be a little controversial or whatever, but I truly believe that when God comes down to us and says, on our judgment day, I don't think he's going to ask us if we're a Democrat, Republican, if we're Hispanic or Black, Asian, white. He's not going to ask us that. He's not going to ask us what denomination we are. He's going to look into our soul, in our heart, and he's going to tell us, are we, have we done what he has taught us? And I have to say, Jennifer had such a big heart. She went out of her way to help people. She was kind to people. Did she have her troubles? Everybody does. So when God comes down, we all start out knowing that we're all sinners. But he looks at our heart and he says, who are you? What have you done? And I think that's the most important thing that Jennifer in the last year really got into. She believed in God. She had faith that God was going to come and that she was going to do everything she could to be ready at this point. I want to stop because, you get a lawyer with a microphone, forget it. Don't shut up. And my wife is looking at me going, so anyway, I just want to say something, Like I said, my dad talked about life's a blink of an eye. It truly is. You can go back. But in a blink of an eye, your life can change. It can hit you without even knowing about it. And it can change in a blink of an eye. So we're blessed. Peggy and I and the family are truly, truly blessed. And Jennifer would be truly blessed to have everybody here. You don't realize how good it makes us feel. How many friends, relatives, family, Jennifer's acquaintances coming to give their condolences today and celebrate her life. To that, all we can say is we love you, and we could never give you enough thanks for you coming today. I leave you with one thing, is that with death comes grief, anger, sorrow, but regret. What could I have done? What should I have said? Why can't I say this now? Jennifer would want me to tell you this. I know it like the back of my hand. Everybody today has a cell phone. Everybody today is going to go home. And what she would be telling everybody is there are people that you love in your life that mean a lot to you. Whether it's your immediate family, your relatives, your friends that you have, be sure and tell them that you love them, that you care for them, because don't have that regret. You may experience all the other signs of grief and sorrow, but don't have the regret that then say, I should have said this, I should have said that. Like I said, thank you all. You all mean a lot to us. You all mean a lot to Jennifer. And may God bless you guys. Thank you.